while I get the YouTube channel going, and we are now live on YouTube. This is KGUA in Wallala 88.3 FM. I'm your host today for just a moment, that is, to make some announcements, Leanne Lindsay, and then I'll be introducing our new guest host, George Calys of the Sea Ranch and of the Sea Ranch Soundings and White Barn Press. He's going to be talking to the Sea Ranch Thespians about their new play. Katie Atherton is in the wing. She's the director, and also Lynn Atkins, who's a cast member. Those are coming up just in a moment. First, I have to tell you about what an exciting weekend there is coming up at Gualala Art Center. I was there yesterday to get a box hack dinner with a whole bunch of other people, and Susala was there doing his performance. There were the Mendocino Dance Project that were dancing in the Redwoods, on the Redwoods. They scaled up the Redwoods and they were dancing on the Redwoods. It was spectacular. It gave us a moment of respite, and it will for you too if you get a chance to get over to the Gualala Art Center this weekend. They have a sold out champagne reception tonight. Tomorrow, I believe, also is sold out, but Sue said if they get tickets returned, you can get them at the Dolphin Gallery. And all tickets are being done through Dolphin Gallery this year, just so that they can reduce some of the traffic there and make it more streamlined, as they only have about a quarter of their volunteers this year. And then Sunday, also, the dance performance will be happening there in the Gualala Arts Center on the hour. Every half hour. They've got so many artists that are showing this year. They've got 200 pieces of fine art in 15 different categories. And then they have the artists that are from 3 years old to 93 years old, seasoned professionals to first-time exhibitors. So take a look at that. And then coming up also, and that is Art in the Redwoods. If you get your ICO this week, you'll see this segment in there that's going to be giving you all the scoop on what's happening there. And then coming up in a couple of weeks, it is the Studio Discovery Tour. And that is going to be on the Sonoma and Mendocino coast. There's 24 studios, 41 artists. I think that the artists are less than that. Some of them had to drop out, but the tour goes over 5 days, and it's Saturday through Sunday, August 28th through 29th, Saturday through Monday, September 4 through 6, as Labor Day weekend. And that'll be from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And you can find out more about the Discovery Tour either by going to the Discovery Gallery. You can see a pre-show of it, or you can go to studiodiscoverytour.com. And that is the Discovery Gallery that's over there by Trinks here in Wallala. And going on this weekend, it is Phil Clark and Emma Hurley that are still exhibiting up at the Coast Highway Art Exhibit, and that is going to be through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. You'll see all of their wood work. They got hoodies, mirrors, ceramics, tables even, and that's up in Point Arena. Going on to a couple of announcements that are separate from art, and this has been a real art week this week. It's been wonderful. We had, in fact, Ling Yin Jones on yesterday with Art Walt Rush, and Shaban with Shaban Silks, and Kelly Keeve, and they were talking about all their great artwork that they're going to be showing at the Studio Discovery Tour, but they were showing a lot yesterday at Art in the Redwoods as well. So it's been a wonderful week, and now we're going to be soon talking about the Thespians and the next play that's coming up in the White Barn in just a moment. First, I wanted to tell you that the up in Manchester, the Grange Board has decided to cancel the membership potluck that's on August 29th. So please do note that August 29th, that has been canceled by the Grange Board for the membership potluck. The Coastal Seniors is looking for a driver. So if you're looking to help our local seniors age in place and have a little fun too, Coastal Seniors is looking for drivers to take the clients on local shopping trips and to medical appointments like to Fort Bragg, Ukiah, Santa Rosa. Get in touch with them by calling 707-882-2137. That's 882-2137, or send an email to director@coastalseniors.org. And their Coastal Seniors monthly lunch menu continues next week. They have some amazing food at this place. It's up in Point Arena. You can pick them up from 11:30 to 12:30 in the Point Arena Veterans Building, Monday through Wednesday. Call by 4 p.m. the day prior, though, to order a meal or schedule a delivery. And there is delivery for the seniors and disabled adults only, but find out more information at coastalseniors.org or call their office at 707-882-2137. And that is the one last thing I did want to say is Sweet Life Bakery, because they do have a sliding scale for all of our members here in the area who need food, and you can get in touch with them, call them by 9 o'clock, sometime in this hour right now. As a matter of fact, if you would like to order a meal to be picked up today at noon, and their number is 707-225-8844. That's 225-8844. And it is on a sliding scale donation. Today they've got, and they are vegan and vegetarian. Everything is as organic as possible. They have fresh baked items. And today's lunch is lasagna. And with that, we are now going to open up the mics for our new guest host who debuts today, George Calys of the Sea Ranch Soundings and White Barn Press. Welcome to Peggy's Place, George. Good morning.
Thank you, Leanne. Well, it's really great to be here, and what a treat to get to sit in on Peggy's Place, my favorite program at KGUA. I hope Peggy's getting a chance to listen, or if not, I hope she's taking a well-deserved rest. Maybe she's doing both. Hey, this is going to be a really, good. This is going to be a fun hour because we've got two women from the Sea Ranch Thespians, and we're going to talk a little bit about who the Thespians are. My guests today are Katie Atherton and Lynn Atkins. Both Katie and Lynn have been involved with the Thespians and in fact involved with theater for quite some time. We'll hear a little bit about that. We'll also talk about their upcoming production that will be this September. We'll give you some dates and times. Other Desert Cities is the name of the production, and we'll hear maybe a little bit of the plot there, maybe a little interesting tidbits to attract you in. Let me start off. Katie, let me kick you off. Good morning, Katie. Thanks for joining me.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Could you, for some of our listeners who may not be familiar with the Thespians, or some of our listeners who, we haven't seen the Thespians for a year and a half, close to 2 years here, maybe bring us up to speed and tell us a little bit about the Thespians and the history and your place in the White Barn and a little bit of background.
I'm happy to. Well, everybody calls the barn the White Barn, but it's also known as the Nip Stengel Barn because it was originally built in the 1880s by Adam Nip and Christian Stengel, who were dairy farmers, and they used that barn. And it's a very big barn. It's the style of barns that were built in those days, but it's rather large, 160 feet long and 60 feet wide. So it's, I think that's the right one. And they were dairy farmers, and it went on, this land was used then later by sheep ranchers who also used that barn. But in 1963, as we maybe all know, Oceanic Properties bought this property to develop an environmentally sensitive environment called the Sea Ranch. And with that came the barn. The barn, however, by that time was in a lot of disrepair. And so it took a lot of energy, and basically getting a lot of energy to declare it on the National Register of Historical Places, which eventually was declared to be a historical place in 1987. And then it began for about 10 years, over 10 years, all kinds of volunteers just worked and worked and worked to repair it, to put it back together again, to make it solid. And over 10 years, that work finally paid off so that the barn began to be open to be used for a variety of things. And eventually, in 1998, Carol Emery and John Wingate, along with the director Diane Bokey, decided, let's put on a play. And so they did. In 1998 was the first one. It was Murder at Rutherford House. And at the time, all they had was some black fabric to put over the barns and the barn doors, and some contractor lights that put some spotlights on the people who were in the play. But
so this was a pretty rustic production. It's very primitive, it sounds
very
like.
primitive. And today, just to tell you how that's changed, but those two contractor lights that gave it light before, there are now 100 lights, all computer controlled, along with sound. There are risers now that create a real audience that goes up, and also curtains and rear projector, which we will be using now in this play, and all kinds of extras that we just didn't that have been developed. So it's actually a state of the art of some of the facility pieces right now.
Yeah, I remember one production that I saw, in addition to all the other high-tech features that you listed, you've even got a stage turntable so you can do the revolving sets. You guys have, it's come a long way from some draperies and some old lights.
Yes, and this is this play that's coming up will be the 45th play.
Wonderful.
So they've put on a bunch of plays.
Wonderful. Hey, Lynn, thank you for joining us. And
Good morning.
Could you chime in a little bit about the founding of the Thespians and Carol Emery and John Wingate and Diane Bokey and other people who had a part in bringing the Thespians into being?
That would be my pleasure. Actually, if you ever think of theatrical angels, it comes immediately to mind are John Wingate and Carol Emery. They have set up a very unique theatrical experience that is actually a gift to the community. They have taken care of putting together a theater, as Katie talked about, complete with electronic equipment, lighting, sound, rear screen projectors and screens, just an amazing amount of technical equipment that many professional theaters would be in awe of. But they also take care of the cost of the royalties, any costs of props, etc. And they open the doors of the theater as a gift to the community free of charge. So this is a true act of love. John and Carol partnered in bringing forward this community theater, this unusual free to the public, all of the public, not just the Sea Ranchers, but this is open to all of the public. And as John became a little bit older, became ill, and unfortunately passed away, he didn't forget the Sea Ranch Thespians. He set up a trust, a grant that would continue on in his name, even after his passing. Carol is still there. She, when we were little, we used to think of our teachers never went home, that they just lived in the schoolroom. Well, a lot of us think that Carol just lives at the barn because she's there when we get there and she's there when we leave. This woman is amazing. She does so much for her actors and her directors. We all feel so valued. She is so appreciative of everything we do. And of course, Turnabout's Fair Play, we are tremendously appreciative of everything that she does. So this truly is a unique theater.
You're here.
Lynn, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Lynn, also, and I believe this is correct, either one of you can correct me here, the actors and directors, the crews, everybody as I understand, it takes quite a few people to put on a production. It's not
All
just the folks on.
volunteer.
Yeah, that's my question. Everybody donates their time. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're all volunteer. There is nobody paid for the time and the joy of participating with the thespians.
Yeah, that's
It's
really
all done for the
fantastic.
love of theater. You know, we have a great deal of fun, and it's a wonderful creative outlet for us. Whether whether I'm directing or whether I'm acting, I just find so much joy in being able to live part of my passion for theater.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Hey, Katie, let me jump back to you for a second, if I could. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you ended up here on the coast, or maybe you were here all along, or why you're here now. A bit about your past acting experience. How did you get into drama and theater, and your involvement with the thespians? Give us a little background on you yourself.
Well, actually, I came here in 2004 and moved into Sea Ranch, to a house in Sea Ranch with my husband. The two of us made a decision to come here as part of a retirement because my husband had had a head injury and was having a difficult time. And so we came here and lived here for 10 years while he was in a decline. But it was a very healing environment for us. So it meant a lot to be in this environmentally healing locale. At the same time, I got involved with theater here. But my original involvement was quite early in my life. My whole family is oriented toward theater and have been directors and actors. Also, we were putting on plays since I was 4 years old, I'm sure. And at the same time, I was involved and trained, not professionally in the sense of getting a degree in this. My career went in another direction, which was more into the direction of psychology and becoming a psychotherapist. But I was trained by the people at the Portland Civic Theater where I grew up. And then ultimately, when I was 30, more professional training with South Coast Repertory Theater, which is in Costa Mesa. And then I directed and we're in a few plays in Orange County until my family began to be born and my life took on its interest in the work was doing as a therapist. And so it was when we came here and we're just sort of allowing ourselves to relax and take in this and to actually be very helpful to my husband that I discovered theater here again. And so I ended up being involved with Sea Ranch Thespians in a bunch of plays, many, many plays. And that moved my career back, brought all of that training in the past. And yet the reason that directing has become so important to me is that I'm interested mostly in directing plays that are about psychological issues, family dynamics. I probably wouldn't direct something else. This is what is my passion. It has been my passion all my life, so it's easy to do it here. And so I directed a radio show of It's a Wonderful Life, but also I directed Winter in recently, which was again about family.
So we're not going to look to you to be directing any comedy productions. It doesn't sound like
musicals. No musicals.
Or musicals. Yeah. Okay.
No, that was me.
Good to know. However, just to dig a little bit deeper into one thing you said, that you were trained in psychology and worked as a psychotherapist, and now you're spending a lot of time directing people. Not only are there the interrelationships within the play itself, which you can explore as a director, there are the actors up there are also humans who are interacting in ways unrelated to the play, And so talk a little bit. So has that been great to be a psychotherapist? Have you been able to get into your actors' heads and straighten them out, we'll say?
That's the most exciting part for me, because all the actors are people with their own dynamics, And then they're being asked to stretch out of that into something else, which as whatever the role demands. And for some reason, this particular play has a lot of people going against their natural typecast, okay? So someone who might be very outgoing has to suddenly learn how to limit. Somebody who's maybe strong has to suddenly become a sort of Peter Pan happy, joking kind of person. Somebody who's maybe more talkative has to be quieter. Somebody else has to be make new discoveries in their roles. And as a result, it's a very, very tricky kind of thing, because one has to be able to invite people to discover new possibilities, especially people with a lot of background. But this play invites new possibilities, and invite people into it. One also has to understand who you're dealing with, how they work, how they discover their own roles, their own capacities, and people do it differently. So it takes a lot of sensitivity to those issues, at the same time bringing a kind of knowledge about what needs to happen for this play to work, especially this play, which is pretty intense, interactional, human layered play. So yes, it's quite a challenge and quite interesting.
Thanks. Lynn, how about a little bit about your background, your history, how you got here, what brought you into the world of theater and drama, and why you're doing this?
Well, as I said earlier, it's a passion with me. Ever since I was a little girl, I remember pulling together my classmates, and we'd put together a play and go door to door selling tickets for 5 cents a piece, and then have the play in my backyard. It was something that I loved ever since I was really small. I ended up with a bachelor's degree in theater and a MFA in theater communications. So, and I did teach theater on both the high school and the university level for a few years. And then there was really no money in it. So I sold out and went into the corporate world, where I retired. I took an early retirement back in 2000. I was the managing director for information systems for Charles Schwab. So I had moved right brain, left brain. And we moved up to the coast. And that very first year we were here, I discovered the Sea Ranch Thespians. Although I wasn't a sea rancher, I did see a notice in the paper that they were having an audition. And a couple of my new friends called me and said, hey, why don't you audition? I said, well, I'm not a sea rancher. I don't think I can. Well, call Carol Emery. So I did. And Carol said, of course you can audition. Please come down, join us. I did. And I was cast. So there it came again, all of my love of theater that I hadn't really had the time, being a managing director in the corporate world, to be able to avail myself. I was back. I actually started doing theater with the Thespians back in 2000. And then in 2000, I believe it was 2003, Kathy Hitt and I started Art Center Theater at Wallala Arts, where we put on 2, sometimes 3 shows a year. I directed, probably nearly 30 productions there. A good 10, 12 of them were musicals, very large casts. I think the biggest cast was 44 people. It was a great deal of fun. We ended up having cast members from the age of 6 to 76. We did a lot of really fun shows. Annie, Oliver, Music Man, you just go on and on. And additionally, directing straight plays, Diary of Anne Frank, Enchanted April. We had a lot of fun. In 2014, Kathy and I both said, okay, it's time for us to retire from Art Center Theater and turn the helm back over to Seuss, which we did. I'm now on the board for the Sea Ranch Thespians, and I've directed quite a number of plays. including Tuesdays with Maury, Anastasia, Miracle Worker for the Thespians. And I've acted in literally dozens of shows there. So I really do appreciate and know firsthand how valued Carol makes all of us actors and directors feel when we're working with her. So it's been a great deal of fun, and it's such a privilege to be able to be part of this. So come and see our next production. This has been a really interesting ride for most of us. The show, as Katie said, is very intense, but it also has moments of great fun and humor. So you get sort of a rounded piece of theater. You get full-on drama, and you also get to laugh a little bit.
We're going to come back and talk a little bit about that current production and let you explore a little bit more. For those of you who are just tuning in, you're listening to Peggy's Place. I'm George Calys, your host for today. I've got two wonderful women from the Sea Ranch Thespians who are our guests today, Katie Atherton and Lynn Atkins. Both of them are part of the production of their next upcoming play, Other Desert Cities, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. Once again, we're KGUA 88.3 FM in Walla, California. You can also listen to us on kgua.org. Click on the air pocket icon and you can listen, or turn to YouTube and do a search for KGUA. You'll find the KGUA YouTube channel there, and you can actually watch us, kind of like a little miniature TV. Thanks a bunch. Let's dive in a little bit more about this current production, Other Desert Cities. You know, the name is a little bit not off-putting, but it doesn't quite make sense. What are the other desert cities? What are we talking about? And I understand there's quite a bit of family dynamics going on in this play. Katie, you want to kind of get that ball rolling a little bit? Tell us in a bit about the play.
Okay, so Other Desert Cities is about a family gathering together at Christmas, two parents, and Lynn is playing the mother in this play quite well. And the two children are coming home, mid-age children, for Christmas. And one of them has written a book, and it's about to be published. And it turns out it's a memoir of that refers to and explores a very painful time and wounded time for this family, a very painful time in the past, particularly relating to their firstborn son who died. So that's how it gets started, and it's that dynamic. They have very different opinions about that book.
Yeah, is this family, if I understand, that this painful period that the daughter is now writing the book about, was that painful issue something that they had just not talked about? You know, this happens in families where there's something difficult in the past and it just doesn't get talked about for years and years. Is that where this family is coming from?
Well, that's what it appears is what's happening.
Okay.
And the daughter, who has the book and feels that it's very important for her to be able to acknowledge her older brother in a particular way and all the circumstances of his life, is not something that is being talked about, as can happen in families when there's a painful situation. Sometimes it isn't talked about, but it's as the play goes on, we find out a lot more. Things are revealed over time about what's really going on and why people are, why the daughter is struggling with this and why the parents are struggling against her. And there's also an aunt. So there's also a brother. Everybody has different opinions. By the end of this play, you have quite a wide variety of perspectives. And what I wanted to say about the name, there is a line in the play where the daughter, when she talks to her brother, says, you know, have you ever noticed the sign when you're coming here on the freeway that says this way to Palm Springs, which is where the family lives? Sorry, I didn't mention that. The family lives in Palm Springs, and Other Desert Cities is an opposite road and in that sign. And so she says, sometimes don't you just want to turn and go the other way? And in many ways, because this family has some fractiousness, some especially between the mother and the daughter, there is a feeling for the daughter of coming home, and that Palm Springs represents something difficult for her. And because of the whole history and the woundedness of this family, it is a difficult place. It does mean revisiting a past situation. Other desert cities is as if it represents metaphorically another option, another way to look at all of this, different from the Palm Springs stuck place where they are. And that's where we see at the beginning. Other desert cities opens the door, the idea metaphorically that there could be another way to look at all this. And that is, it's sort of, this play is like a tale about what happens when people get stuck in their belief systems about each other and what they think each other is thinking and what they need from each other, and they get stuck and they can't. Well, we know about it in our world today pretty well, and we can hear about it every day actually if we want to. So when they get stuck, what is it that happens that opens that into something larger? And that's what this play is ultimately about.
Wow, that sounds really interesting and really troubling all at once.
Well,
right?
let me read you something, because I think it's helpful from the New York Times about it, because it's a nice way of hearing about it that isn't even our words, okay? It says it's a play that is built with gleaming dialogue, tantalizing hints of a dangerous mystery, and a structural care that brings to mind the heyday of Lillian Hellman. In this play, our sympathies keep shifting among the members of the wounded family portrayed here. Every one of them emerges as selfish, loving, cruel, compassionate, irritating, charming, and just possibly heroic. Leaves you feeling both moved and gratifyingly sated. So
that leaves you with that puts a rather high bar, places a high bar for you, Katie, as a director. That review makes the play sound pretty fascinating, and something as a director you've got to kind of you've got to deliver that for us now.
Yes, because a family that's fighting could be very boring. You could
much.
You could get to that intermission and say, well, that's enough, let's go home.
I think we've all seen some movies like that where we were
right.
There's a little too real, and we decided we couldn't live to the end.
And we have to deal with that. We have to bring truth to it, and honesty and layering, so that it actually is alive in every moment and you're riveted by every word that's said. And I think that's where this is headed.
Lynn, you're playing the mother, and
Yes.
we just heard from Katie that all of the characters have got this wide range of emotions. I could see you as an actor on the stage being the charming part, but sounds like you have to be irritating or annoying, or
Maybe this was typecasting. I don't know, George.
yeah, who knows? Well, how have you approached your role as a mother? What has been the challenges for you, and what have you enjoyed, or what have you found difficult?
Well, what I've really had fun with is finding her not as a single dimension, but a multi-dimensional person. If she were to, she could come across as just an irritating, opinionated person, but she's more than that. She is totally devoted to her family, to her husband. She has very definite opinions. This woman and her husband were very close friends with the Reagans, Ron and Nancy. They were very active in the Republican Party, and they have very definite beliefs, even carried into the 21st century, that the war in Iraq is justified. A lot of very definite dogmatic views on the way politics moves forward and should move forward in this world, which is interesting because, again, this is not typecasting. Her husband was head of the GOP, And I happen to be currently head of the Democratic Party for my county. So that was, that's a switch. Um, the character is, she's very smart. She's very well educated. She's very witty. She has some really funny lines. Now my sister, who is played by Jerry Taylor, is she's a comic relief. I mean, this woman is every time she opens her mouth, she says something amazingly that you want to kind of giggle over. But as far as building my character, I really need to be very careful not to make her single dimensional, to show the other parts of her and to let the audience understand by the end why she has done and why she is doing what she's doing. So that at the reveal at the end, you can go, I get that. I understand that now. Why she and her husband are doing what they're doing in partnership and have been doing for years. So this is part of the suspense. You'll find out at the end what is going on, why all the pushback with the daughter and her release of her book. So, and you can see right from the beginning how much they really adore her.
Yeah. So for our listeners, you've just gotten a little taste of this interesting family dynamic and a little hint that there's maybe a suspenseful ending, which I'm pretty sure Katie and Lynn aren't going to give away the story. Therefore,
not on your life.
So you'll have to come. You'll have to come and see it. Lynn, let me just pick up on one thing that you were saying that I find really interesting. The character you play, the mother, is very prominent in Republican circles. As you mentioned, they were personal friends with the Reagans, so that would be pretty prominent in that in that world. But yet, in your own actual real life, you, Lynn Atkins, here, you're very involved, highly involved, and in a leadership role with the Democratic Party in Mendocino County.
Yes.
Was that hard? Because you've got to, in a sense, this role causes you to portray your opposition, your enemy, your political enemy, so to speak, and you had to make that person not a caricature, but an actual human being that an audience could say, as you mentioned it, we can understand where she's coming from, what her motivations were, why she's doing what she's doing. How did you resolve that for yourself?
Well, first of all, I don't really consider Republicans my enemy. They simply have a different set of beliefs or a different process to, I think we're all actually going for the same thing. We want a good, safe, free America. We just have different ways of trying to get there. But did it bother? No, actually, I found it a little bit amusing that I needed to flip my coin over, because as an actor, that makes it so much more interesting not to play somebody that's a carbon copy of you, of yourself. And this person happens to be as passionate about her beliefs and what she has done to foster and move forward those beliefs as I am about mine. So the beliefs just happen to be different. So that I could find that bit inside of me, even though what the things I'm saying as a character, as Polly, which is my character's name, are not the same words that would come out of Lynn's mouth, but the passion is still the same, regardless of what the words are. That belief and that wish to move that forward are still the same. So it gave me a little giggle when I first read this script, and then thought, gosh, I really would like to play this role. And so I thank Katie for casting me in it. It gave me a little giggle thinking, oh, this is kind of ironic.
It sounds to me like Katie's psychotherapy background and experience might have come in handy right now, so you could go this other direction.
Right.
Hey, Katie, let's talk a little bit about when the play shows, the times, and do we have some restrictions brought about because of the pandemic and COVID-19 with our audiences, or what should listeners be aware of to come to the play, and how do they obtain tickets? Some of those particulars.
Yeah, of course. Let's see. As Lynn said, keep in mind admission is free,
Right.
and the plays all take place at 4:00 in the afternoon. So one can go to the play and then go out to dinner if the pandemic were not happening. But as far as we're concerned for this, everyone will be asked to wear masks who are in the audience. And depending on we are going forward and working very hard with the plan that we are still planning to put this on, and that we'll somehow be able to do that. The cast is being tested every week, twice, just to make sure that they are healthy. And so far there's been no problem. And we are all wearing masks for this, and even the actors are wearing the face shields, because we need to be able to rehearse. They need to see each other just to get reactions from each other. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And so they're wearing them. They look a little bit like aliens on stage right now.
We do.
And so it's an unusual way to rehearse a play, actually.
Is that a challenge? Is that a challenge for the actors? You've got the face shields on, and I would imagine that it's a little more difficult to project your voice. You're already in a big space in the barn. Actors are not amplified. They're not mic'd up. So has that been a challenge for actors to still be able to project and be heard?
Yes,
I can answer that.
Okay, go ahead.
It's not really easy to kiss somebody with the face shield on. It's not easy to take a drink, to try and get the drink underneath the face shield. So yeah, and the face shield begins to cloud up after a little bit of time. So everybody starts to look a little fuzzy, but it has allowed us to do whatever we can to be safe. So we all wear our regular masks when we're on the floor. All of the directors and the crew members all wear masks. The actors, the five of us, when we go up on stage, we take the mask off, put the face shields on.
Okay.
And as Katie says, we're testing once a week. Actually, it's twice a week. The thespians are taking care of making sure that happens, so that all of the actors are safe, as safe as we can possibly be. So it's been an interesting ride, hasn't it, Katie?
Oh, absolutely. This is very different. And in
different.
fact, the plan for depending on how many people and just what's happening, we might have a smaller group coming to a play now. We might not. We don't know, because everyone has to make those decisions for themselves as you're gathering in a group. Of course, the barn is very big and it's almost like being outside, and everyone will be masked. And it's possible that if just depending, where even the seating will be different than usual. There'll be more space between people, and also they could. Carol was just saying it's a possibility. We don't know yet that when people make a reservation, that we would actually find them their seats ahead of time. Right now, when you arrive, it's first come, first serve, and so they could actually be definitely seated in groups that are apart from each other. So that's one other possibility. We don't know if we're going to need that.
The other thing is that we need to give George, I think, wants the dates of the play.
Yes,
I do.
That's September 16th through 19th. That's a Thursday through a Sunday, and 23rd to the 26th. Again, Thursday through Sunday. That you need to get in touch with Carol Emery, either by going www.cranchthespians.com, or she is listed in the Blue Book if you happen to have an old Blue Book. Our telephone number is 785-2548. What we are following, I think I mentioned I'm also on the board for the Thespians. And one of the things that the Thespians is doing, we're following the Sonoma County and the Sea Ranch Association guidelines on how to be and do publicly during this time of COVID. One of the things that Carol is saying is that for everybody to know that the seating is limited. Reservations this time will be required. There will be no walk-ins allowed. Ordinarily, people could show up, and if there was a seat available, they could just come in. But that won't be the case. We're trying to control for the safety of our audience as well as for the safety of the performers and the crew. So there is so much that has been changing just daily, weekly, monthly, within this time of COVID, that what we're following is what the guidelines are now. Should they change, then I expect we will as well. So knock on wood, fingers crossed, prayers to the gods of theaters that we'll be able to do this. And we're moving forward as though we are.
We are, and we are I would be a shame if we had to postpone it again, or if we actually have to do it. We've been postponing it. It was postponed from 2020, the early part of 2020. We had 3 little rehearsals, one a read through, and then suddenly it was shut down, and we kept saying, well, it'll be next May. No, it'll be next fall. No, it'll be the following May. No, because Sea Ranch Thespians, by the way, only shows 2 shows, and one of them is in September and one is in May. So it kept being postponed. And then finally, this summer is when we got the word that it could go on, that, Sonoma County was free to open everything up in California. So we went ahead, and at the last minute changed. It meant that we had to make a lot of accommodations. I mean, Lynn Atkins right here has a lot of other commitments in her life. And this was actually in some ways the worst time for her to have to do this, but she did it, and she's doing it anyway. And we were working around her schedule. That's how we were just
I need to remind everybody here, we're listening to Peggy's Place, listeners, on our YouTube observers, radio watchers, and those on the internet, listening to KGUA 88.3 FM in Wallala. And I just mentioned there's 3 different ways to watch us: on your regular FM radio, on the internet, kgua.org, or on YouTube. Look for the KGUA channel on YouTube. We're talking to Katie Atherton and Lynn Atkins, both from the Sea Ranch Thespians. We just heard quite a bit of information about how you were stopped quite a bit by the pandemic. You had to postpone some plays. You didn't move forward. For many years, the Thespians have been doing 2 productions a year. So you've missed 2 or 3 productions. Missed several productions now and everything. One thing that you did do that I found really fascinating is that you put together some audio plays that theater goers could bring up on the internet, listen to at their leisure. Tell us a little bit. I believe you did 3 audio plays. Is that correct? Katie, tell us about maybe that first. There was the first one or tell us about those a little bit.
Well, the most I know about them, I was only in the position of hearing them. Lynn in all 3, and so she might be your better person for telling you about it.
Well, Lynn, tell us a little bit about those audio plays, and how'd you? I think it's a great idea, but how did you all think of doing that?
Well, what we were trying to do is to still maintain the presence of the Sea Ranch Thespians in the community, and to still be able to give the gift of theater to the community during a time where everything was so dark and horrible. So I actually, Carol and Kathy Hitt were on a walk, and they started talking about what could we do? Could we do something via Zoom? What could we do? And it was an interesting conundrum that they were facing, because you have to pay royalties for shows, and the royalties you pay to the various houses, whether it's dramatists or dramatic guild or whatever, and they're set up for regular performances that you cannot record, and you sign contracts that you can't record. Well, now we're into a situation that if we want to do something, we have to be able to record it. So, and a lot of these houses were not ready to switch the way they do business. So that was an interesting problem to overcome. But they did come up, Carol and Kathy, and came up with some plays that we could do. I was lucky enough to be cast in all three. Interestingly, each of those casts, I was a strong, not necessarily nice person. Lady Bracknell, in The Importance of Being Earnest, is just to talk about an irritatingly strong takeover, take charge type of woman. Well, that goes to the actual nth degree, which is the role I played. It was fun, George, to do them. We missed having the live audience. We missed being able to be on the stage in costume, etc. But it brought back some real fun times in my life because I was very involved. I did teach readers theater for a number of years and also taught oral interpretation of dramatic art. So that, which was doing radio, all of the characterization via voice. And so that's what we did. And it was fun to get back into doing that because the audience couldn't see us. They couldn't see what we were doing. There was certain Foley kind of, what the radio we used to call a Foley artist, making the sounds in the background. But as far as the character is concerned, it had to come all through the voice. Nobody could see the face. Nobody could see what your body was doing. It was just your voice. So that was great fun. And these audio plays were well received in the community. So the first one was just supposed to be a little Christmas gift, and it was a little Christmas ball of fluff. Kathy directed it. And it was surprising how well received, and people were, oh, can you do more? Can you do more? So we went, oh, okay, yeah, what do we want to do next? So then we did this kind of melodramatic mystery, where again, I got to play, the nasty sister-in-law. I don't know what it is. Me and nasty in the plays just seem to go hand in hand, and I'm actually a very pleasant person. At least I try to be.
It sounds like maybe you've got a special talent there that's just coming out now.
The talent for wicked and nasty.
There you go.
But yeah, and then after that, there was another more. Come on, more, please do more. So we did The Importance of Being Earnest.
Sure.
So that was fun.
And listeners can still hear all of those audio plays are still available on. Can we go to the Sea Ranch Thespians website and
yes.
listen to any of those? And that's Sea Ranch Thespians I'm sorry, is that .org or .com?
That is SeaRanchThespians.com.
SeaRanchThespians.com.
Yeah.
And you can find those three audio plays, and who knows, maybe more in the future, although we sure love the live productions coming back. We've got a few moments left, and I want to real quickly, we've got about 5 minutes left. I'd like to pick each one of your brains for just a funny little, maybe give me a 1-minute little synopsis about some particular experience on the stage or around the theater. This could either be something really wonderful that happened to you, maybe very heartwarming, very rewarding, or it could be some really embarrassing, catastrophic moment that happened to you on stage. Just pick one. Either way, it can be wonderful or embarrassing. It doesn't matter. But give me a quick one, maybe a minute each. Katie, how about you?
Well, what I can only answer to that, George, is that I mentioned to you that I came here with a husband who was in a decline and it included a dementia. So we're losing him incrementally over 10 years of time. And at the same time, I was involved in all these plays in which I was cast where I wasn't in a relationship. It was about always a relationship. So that could be, all kinds of plays that have marriages or whatever. And the great thing was that while I was at home taking care of my husband, and where what was required of me was mostly patience and adjustment and adaptation, on stage I was in relationships that did everything, whether it was emotions of jealousy or epiphanies of sudden love or anger or compassion, outrage or innocence. All that was going on, and it sort of gave me this freedom to have this emotional life while at home I needed to be very
Wow.
contained.
Wow. Lynn, how about you? Was there a catastrophic, embarrassing moment on the stage?
There was, and
All right.
it took me years to be able to discuss it without shuddering.
We've got about a minute left, so let me.
Okay, really quickly,
Yeah.
the play was Rashomon, which is the story of a rape and a murder, with really uplifting stuff, as seen through 3 different sets of eyes, and then by observers, impartial observers. So we all have our own story, which features us being wonderful. And my character was supposed to run down onto the edge of the theater, down a little ramp, and then kneel down and talk to the judge. The lights came up. Well, I ran down and I missed, and I ran right off the edge of the stage and landed on the audience member in the front row on her feet. I'm lucky I did not break her feet.
Wow.
So before the lights came up, I crawled back up on stage and I sat there and I was ready to go. But running off the edge of the stage in the dark is just more than. I hate to leave this whole show with that story.
That's all right. We'll hope that things go much better in other desert cities, and I have a feeling that we will. We're just about wrapping up with our time. Once again, listeners, you've been listening to Peggy's Place on KGUA 88.3 FM. I'm George Calys, your today's host, and maybe if the station picks up my contract, maybe you'll see me around another time. And I've been really fortunate today to have 2 wonderful women, Katie Atherton and Lynn Atkins, both from the Sea Ranch Thespians. Katie is directing the next production of Other Desert Cities, which will be held, will play September 16th through 19th and September 19th, 23rd through 26th. I believe I've got those dates right.
Yes, you're right.
And they'll be in the White Barn, where you can see them. Plays are free. You will need to go online to reserve your tickets. There may be a limited number of tickets due to COVID restrictions. The thespians are monitoring the COVID situation weekly so that everyone can be safe. And it's a fantastic organization, does a lot of fantastic work. Katie, thank you. Lynn, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to turn you back over to KGUA. Good luck. Oh, and break a leg.
Thank you all so much. I really enjoyed that. And thank you, Carol Emery, for this book about the White Barn and its restoration and how the Sea Ranch Thespians got their start. I'm Leanne Lindsay. You've been listening to KGUA in Molalla. Thank you so much for joining us today, and to all of you, and to our new guest host, George Calys. Thank you for joining us today. It's 10 o'clock. Goodbye, everyone. All right. And with that, we're going to move over to Native America Calling.